Hey, welcome to the Morning Stretch. I'm your host, Tony Herbert. Happy Sunday. We're joined today by one of our favorite guests, Elias Hussamuddin, president of the Corrections Officers Benevolent Association. Elias is here to discuss a range of new issues that have popped up in the news recently, many of which may affect you, our viewers. I'd like to welcome again, Elias Hussamuddin. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
So let's get right into it. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of questions I want to ask, that I've gotten from some of our, the group that we pull together. We have questions, they have questions. Now, the biggest thing right now is the Janus decision.
Right.
Tell us about that and how that affects you and your union.
Well, I think basically Janus is something that a lot of people didn't know a lot about before. Right. Mm-hmm. But now that the decision has come down, a lot of people
it was a lot of talk
know
of
a
it
little
in the
bit
media.
more about it.
Right.
The decision wasn't really something that the unions here didn't expect.
Right.
We pretty much knew what the decision, or we felt like we knew what the decision was going to be. Janus, to me, in a nutshell, has to do with one set of powers fighting against another set of powers, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Meaning, because think about it, unions have been a stronghold in this country for a long time.
Right.
When Martin Luther King was killed, where was he?
He was marching. He was going to go march with
Who
the
was he
sanitation workers,
representing?
right? Yeah.
So, there's an element in this country that know that, organized labor has been the only movement fighting back, pushing back, and it's the only movement that have money. I mean, labor unions, organized labor, we have money. We're able to contribute to political ideologies, political campaigns, and basically this movement has been moving forward to destroy that for a while.
Right.
So now, basically, I guess you have a president and you have people in office who share that mentality. So here in New York City, the tri-state area, the unions, the organized unions are trying everything they can to educate their members as to exactly what this means. Some unions may be totally destroyed by this decision. Some unions actually may even become stronger as the members of the unions realize, wait, so by me opting out of my union, I'm actually taking away from the power that we have to organize, the power that we have to negotiate, the power that we have. For COBA, example, for COBA, we do negotiations for our members. We negotiate prescription. We negotiate optical. We negotiate legal. We negotiate. There are a lot of things that we negotiate on behalf of our members because of the strength of the union. And without trying to downplay anything, Janus is just an attack on organized labor and on organized unions. And I think that part of the problem has been that organized labor have fallen asleep at the switch. Labor stopped campaigning a long time ago. I mean, you're probably like my age, and you probably remember the song, Look for the Union Label. I mean, I could sing that full song. That was a time when labor, organized labor, was out there campaigning, letting America know how important it is to support, buy an American-made truck, buy an American-made garment. And I think somewhere along the line, we kind of fell asleep at the switch.
So let me ask this though. So, because I need some clarity, because I understand that there's this individual by the name of Janus.
Right.
He didn't feel that it was right for his union to use his union money to support a candidate that he didn't support their positions on. Is that what that was?
Well, that's how it started out.
Right.
But unfortunately, those organized groups that want to destroy labor latched onto that.
Okay.
Because even he himself said, I'm not looking to destroy my union. I'm not looking to, I just don't want my money going to, I believe it was Hillary. I just don't want my money going to this particular candidate that I don't support, which has never been a problem for COBA, because for the handful of what they call agency pay fees that we have, at the end of the year, we give them back whatever political contributions we made, which is usually about $2, $3, because when you spread it out across your entire membership, doesn't really come out to a lot. But what a lot of him and others don't understand is that is the way that we've been, organized labor has been successful in helping people go into the middle class.
Excuse me. So Janice says, you can opt out,
right,
and what have you. Now, how does that work with regards to those who are in the union opposed to those that are not? And here it is, you guys are actually out there still doing the work. How do these people still benefit, or do they benefit?
Well, there's certain things that they will benefit from.
Okay.
And then there are other things that they won't benefit from, that they won't have. Say, for instance, my union. And you and I are both correction officers, right? And we are involved in a use of force or a bad situation.
Right.
And you're a non-member, and I'm a member. Well, guess what? When this is all said and done, I, as a member, can go to my delegate. I can go to my union. I can go to the legal representation coming from my union and from being a dues-paying member. You, on the other hand, are on your own. See, Janice is nothing but a right to work. And anybody that know anything about right to work state, correction officers in South Carolina, you could have 10 years as a correction officer and you can come to work tomorrow, and guess what? You have no organized labor, you have no union representation, and guess what? They can call you in and tell you, we don't need you. That's not something that a union member, a COBA member, will have to worry about.
Now, here's a question. In many other states, union workers have been decimated by the effects of what is known as right-to-work states, even to the point that many have lost their pensions. How do you respond to these assaults?
Tony, basically, all of this is part and parcel of the same mentality that's coming after organized labor, that's coming after the unions. Because, again, like I said in the beginning, unions are almost like the only opposition left to fight those who have their own agenda, and their agenda is to eliminate the middle class. Their agenda is to not have the protection, provide the protections that, because unions, look, unions do a lot more than most people know. I mean, like I said earlier with Martin Luther King, we've been fighting. Unions have been fighting on behalf of social issues ever since I can remember as a kid.
Right.
And
well, are they relevant today? Are they really needed? Or some say that they're a thing of the past.
I think they're needed more now than they were in the past. But I also believe that history has a way of repeating itself. Because if you look at it, prior to unions, they had what they called them, sweatshops.
Right.
Prior to unions, you would go to work and they would padlock the door and you couldn't leave. Prior to unions, there was no air conditioning. Prior to unions, you had no right. Prior to unions, you worked in a shop and your finger or your hand get chopped off. You had no benefits. There was no workers' comp. All of these things have come about because of unions. To me, history repeats itself, and it looks like what they're going to do is put us in a situation where we're going to realize that, damn, we need unions.
So Alicia says, the Koch brothers, Alicia out of Queens, the Koch brothers and many other ultra-rich donors have waged a 30-year campaign and battle against public unions. Wow. Just 2 weeks ago, conservative-backed Freedom Foundation announced they were fanning out on the West Coast across the 3 states, California, Oregon, and Washington, with the stated goal of shrinking union ranks in those 3 states by 127,000 members. Why are the ultra-rich so invested in stopping public unions? I mean, have they been trying to get to this ruling and you guys as union members for years?
Well, it goes back. Again, I don't want to be repetitious.
Right.
It still goes back to what? Unions have always, since they started, been the front line of representing and protecting the rights of people, of others, whether it was the railroad, the railroad union, it doesn't matter. Unions have always been the one who've taken their money and gone much further than just the workplace.
Now, Cuomo introduced a bill to help the unions. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, he
Don't be too excited to do it.
He introduced the bill, and fine, I'll give him credit, you know, to protect the city, to protect the unions here in the city from a complete fallout, right. Such as what happened in Wisconsin. When you go from, once something like this hit Wisconsin, and you go from a state that has 118,000 union members, and it drops damn near to 20,000 because of this right to work and this Janus type of mentality that's going on. And I'm going to be repetitious, I'm gonna keep saying the same thing. This is all about eliminating the protector of the workers, of not only the workers, because like I said, labor has gone outside of itself in promoting things, you know, to help fight on behalf of people who are not even a part of the unions.
Now, are there any other politicians who are proposing any type of assistance to support the unions?
Well, the governor did what he did to protect the unions. There's a city councilman, I think his name is Brennan, who is introducing legislation to attempt to help protect the unions by allowing dues-paying members to write their dues off in their taxes. There are different people who are actually attempting to be helpful and to be and act on behalf of labor and labor unions, and to them, we say thank you, to be honest with you.
Now, not to cut you off, what role does the union play in helping them fight poverty? I mean, we had Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz was on our show 6 weeks ago. I was looking at the clip.
We've been, again, fighting to increase wages, whether it's having union and organized labor. You know, the quickest way to get out of poverty is to have a union job.
And he said the fastest way out of poverty is a union job.
Yeah, I saw that, and he's absolutely right. And for those of us who were brought up with where they said, go take the test, take post office test, where your mother and father kept Police telling you, go take those city tests, because they understood that those city tests and these city jobs and organized labor is the fastest way out of poverty, is the fastest way into the middle class. And for those people who want to continue to be the small percentage of the ruling class in this country, that's not something that they want. So again, we go back to the beginning as far as Janus is concerned and what this is really about.
We'll be right back with some more with Elias Hussain.
We are responsible for correction facilities. We are responsible for people who are in custody of correction facilities. So I have said publicly to the city council, to the mayor, to everyone, that correction officers will not be involved. My union will not, my members will not be going to Horizon on Crossroads. And the only way that's going to happen is if a judge says to me, you're wrong.
Hey, we're back with President of the Corrections Officers Benevolent Association, Elias Hussain. Elias, we just saw a clip, and actually in that clip, and it states exactly what has been your position for a long time, and I'll read it verbatim. You basically said that your union would not be working with juvenile services unless ordered by an actual judge. Now, you just went through a whole trial or got what was it, a restraining order?
Yes, we filed the lawsuit against the city based on two things. One, that this was out of title work for us, somebody else's job. And that, you know, it's a violation of the test that we took. It's a violation of what we signed up for. Basically, we're saying that we are law enforcement officers. We are the police of the jails. We're not social workers. We're not mental health workers. We are not those people. Now, don't get me wrong. As a correction officer, we end up being mentors. We end up counseling people. We end up doing a lot of those things. But those things are simply a byproduct of what we do.
But that's because you have such interaction every day with these individuals.
Yeah, because we have the interaction and because we're human.
Right.
It's kind of difficult to come in and know that somebody's suffering or know that somebody's going through changes and not administer and not be that person to say, hey, it's going to be okay. You know, or, you know, we have inmates who wait for us to come to work to tell us, hey, my son graduated today. Hey, my mother is out of the, you know, they don't have any, we're their only connection to the outside. And like I said, you know, those things, don't get me wrong, inside the New York City Department of Corrections, correction officers provide and wear a lot of different hats, but like I said, those things are simple byproducts. Those are not what we signed on to do.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No. The other thing is you also have been consistent in stating that Rikers Island, being what it is today, is now probably in the midst of what we call a land grab. And you heard me mention earlier about all the powerful interests that's involved. I think I said something about the Koch brothers. I really meant the Koch brothers.
Right.
Or whatever. There's a Koch in there somewhere.
Yeah, there is. Yes, absolutely.
So is the raise the age legislation tied to all of this that's going on?
I believe that there are legislators in Albany who genuinely want to separate 16 and 17-year-olds and not treat them as adults. I believe that there are, there's a group of people who believe that. Well, look, there's only 2 states that didn't believe it, which was New York and North Carolina. So right now, North Carolina is still the only state that says, we're going to charge you as an adult regardless of your age. So New York City have joined the other states in saying, we think that there should be, a different in treatment. So I believe that there's some honest legislators out there that really feel that way. But then I also know that look, Tony, in all honesty, there's very little that's done in this country that doesn't have a dollar sign or some type of monetary value behind it. I mean, unless we're just stupid, to think that it doesn't is ridiculous. If the mayor of the city of New York is going to spend more than $300 million to refurbish Crossroads in Brooklyn.
People are listening. You go ahead.
Crossroads in Brooklyn and Horizon in the Bronx, then there must be some type of monetary value behind that. Let
me jump in on that
real quick. If they're willing to spend up to $23 billion to build 4 jails.
Is it 23 now?
Well, this is the deal. It starts at 10.6.
Okay.
But according to Judge Lippman's report, it will end up costing, when done, about $23 billion.
So Shayla, she's out of Start City. She asked the question. Well, she makes the comment. Bill De Blasio, the mayor, a lot of people have actually are critical of his dealings with NYCHA, the lead paint. So is a contract with this mayor, or is he just a union buster?
I think Mayor De Blasio is like a lot of other politicians. See, I don't like to throw politicians under the bus because politics have done so much for my people and have done so much for labor. Most of what we do, we get done through politics and through, social issues, social events. So we do have politicians who are upright, who do the right thing. So I don't like to just paint with this broad brush. But there are a lot of politicians, such as the mayor and others, who, to me, are suspect in what they do and what they say. We're dealing, for the last years or so, what have we been saying? What have I been saying? What's the union been saying? That Rikers Island is being used as a dumping ground for the mentally ill, for the homeless. We've been talking about the more than 60,000 homeless people, right? We've been talking about NYCHA. We've been talking about a lot of things that, and people say, well, you're a union, why are you talking about it? Because I have members who live in NYCHA.
Right.
I have members who live, 65% of my members live in the 5 boroughs, active and retired. That's more than 20,000 people. And we're affected by what goes on. We're affected by mentally ill people, homeless people, crime, and those things. So again, there you go back to your first, what you talked about in the beginning. Why, as far as Janice, and why someone would want to destroy the unions. Because again, who's out there?
Well, going back to you and corrections as a whole. Now we've had the 3 union heads here. You, what's his name?
Anthony Wells.
Anthony Wells, as well as
Davenia Powell.
Right.
Yes.
We had the 3 of you guys here on the show, and truth be told, and actually as I look at some of the comments, you seem to be the only one who was totally against the idea of the whole situation working in the juvenile justice system, whereas they both supported it, for example, but then turn around, DC 37 got a new contract.
Right.
It's all in the papers. And then probation got more employees, and you're the only one in court fighting. Do you think they left you stranded?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think that, look, I don't think that, because as a union leader, as the president of the union, I'll leave your ass stranded if it's on behalf of my members. Because my primary job is to protect you. So if as a union leader, I have to protect my people, I'm going to do what I have to do to protect my people. That's the only way the union is going to survive. So do I think that? No. And it's not over.
Right.
It's not over. Look, I said that only a judge would be the one to tell us. Well, we filed the lawsuit. A judge, his first thing when he came out was, I don't want to be a judicial activist. This is what the judge said, which I was like, damn. Then he turned around and said, but I'm going to give you the restraining order. So I said, okay. Now, at the end of the day, I don't believe either of these judges in the appellate division or anywhere else, I don't believe that any of their decisions was based on the law. All of their decisions was based on politics, because there's no way that you're going to look at me as a correction officer and you as a juvenile counselor and say that we perform the same duties, because we don't. My job is custody, control, care. Your job is to sit down with the juvenile or the adolescent and try to get into his head, get into his heart, and help him try to figure out what his problem is. That's not the job of a New York City correction officer. Our job is to hold them, feed them, and wait until they go to court and let 12 people, a jury or a judge, decide what happens to them. So definitely it's out of title work. Do I think the judges was, like I already said it, their decisions to me wasn't legal. It was totally political, because at the end of the day, ask yourself, if you're a judge, if you're appointed, which side of the deal do you want to be on?
Well, they're sandwiched. They're sandwiched between the mayor and the governor.
Exactly.
And each of which have appointing powers to some degree, correct?
Absolutely. And not only that, ask yourself, October 1st come. According to the law, the Raise the Age law, October 1st, these inmates, 16 and 17-year-olds, are supposed to be off of Rikers Island. Do you want to be the judge that stopped that?
And missed the date, the timeline.
Do you want to, what side of history you as a judge? Now, if you're a judge who wants to do the right thing, you don't really care. You're going to, make your decision based on the right thing. I don't think they made their decision based on what was right. I think they made their decision based on what was expediently politically correct or good for them.
Let's go into this. Now, advocates from Close the Rikers movement for years have been calling your members violent abusers.
Yes.
And whatnot, of the inmates. Yes. But these same advocates are now on your side, saying that you shouldn't be in the juvenile justice system.
Well, see, they're not really on my side. They're not.
Okay.
Let's not get it twisted.
Okay.
They're not on my side. They are saying that we shouldn't be involved because, according to them, we're monsters. Okay. I am saying we shouldn't be involved because, according to us, that's not the test that we took. Right. That's not the job that we signed up for. Right. So trust me, I don't want anybody to make any mistakes as far as the advocates is concerned.
Got it.
Their goal is totally different from ours. I don't really think they care about 16 and 17-year-olds, to be very honest with you.
My personal opinion is everybody's looking for the next contract or grant.
Exactly. So, like I said, I don't want to get it twisted. They don't want us there for a totally different reason as to why my union and we feel that we shouldn't be there. And I share that with the other correction unions. We all are on the same page as far as out-of-title work. Look, correction officers, my union, we applaud the governor and the legislator who did the Raise the Age. Fine. But the problem is, if you're going to do the right thing, do the right thing. If you're going to go all the way, go all the way. You can't, like Tony Wells said when he was here, or at the city council, we are all caught in the middle of Mayor de Blasio, Governor Cuomo, and whatever it is that they have going on between themselves. You do a Raise the Age law, but you don't completely fund it. You have to implement the raise the age, but you wait 3 months before it's time. So now you have to try to drag my members, my union in, because look, this is the real situation here. The only reason they want correction officers in Horizon is for 3, and they were clear on it. They want us for security, they want us for escort, they want us for transport. They want us for the 3 things that we are guaranteed to get into a use of force or issue with this particular population. They're not asking us to go to Brooklyn. Have you asked yourself why? They don't want us in Crossroads. They only want us in Horizon. The 16 and 17-year-olds that are currently on Rikers Island, they're not going to Crossroads. The 16, 17, 15-year-olds that's in Crossroads are not somebody who's been exposed to Rikers Island. They themselves know that these 16 and 17-year-old is a different adolescent, juvenile, whatever you want to call them. Example, and then I'll say. There's about 97 16 to 17-year-olds currently in our system on Rikers Island. Out of the 97 16 and 17-year-olds, 40% of them are there for either murder or attempted murder. Another 20% assault, first degree, burglary, robbery, first degree, possession of a weapon. These 97 are not turnstile jumpers. They're not open containers. They're not people who was urinating in the park. They're not going home. But these 16 and 17-year-olds are going to Horizon. They're not going to Crossroads. And they want who? See, like I said, we were said to be what? Abusive. We had the program. We had the game.
Was it the boxing
everything.
Program
They accused us of doing all kinds of things. 4 years later, we're the best equipped. We're the best qualified. They need us to be a part of this transition. I don't even understand, and this is off, and I mean, and stop me if I go too far. I don't even understand. In the Bronx, I'm still waiting for somebody to tell me that over in Mott Haven, that there's not going to be a jail built. I haven't heard that yet.
Wait, we're going to come back with
I haven't heard that
We'll come
yet.
back on that one. We'll be right back after this.
It's Wednesday, just before midnight. Cell phone video obtained by Pix 11 shows a bunch of teens arguing on this Bronx street. In the midst of the mayhem, 15-year-old Lissandro Guzman Felix, known as Junior, is stabbed and killed.
He was only 15. He deserved that. His whole life ahead of him.
Katerina Reeves, in tears, was one of many in the community today who visited the memorial outside of the deli on 183rd Street where it happened. Junior's death is sending shockwaves in the community and on social media. Justice for Junior is trending. Rapper Cardi B even posting this on Instagram, writing, "These Bronx streets are ruthless." This is video of Junior being dragged out of the deli just before he was stabbed. Police say these guys are responsible. Loved ones want them caught.
We're back with Elias Hussain. Elias, real quick, I know you went to talk about some of the happenings in the Bronx, particularly that of which what happened with this young man. We're going to jump into that. But over the last couple of months, we've seen a lot of gang violence in our streets, particularly in the Bronx. And when I think they have like a 92% uptick with regards to violent crimes being committed, largely by this gang activity. And there has been a rash of stabbings. Would you characterize these as jail crimes? I mean, like, jail stabbings is huge.
But see, look, we've said it on this show. We've said it on other shows. We've started this whole campaign of ours saying what? That jail is a microcosm of what? Society at large. So if we got more than 5,000 New Yorkers in the last, since de Blasio's been mayor, 5,000 New Yorkers have been slashed, cut, or stabbed, coming home, getting off the train, getting off the bus. Jail is simply, a microcosm of what's happening in the streets. At one time, there was a gun situation. Now they're not using guns. They're using knives. They're using
machetes.
What do you call these little, whatever
Scalpels?
you call it, scalpels and things of that nature. The young man that just got murdered in the Bronx, they didn't shoot him. They stabbed him. They cut him up with a machete and with what? knives. So it's a microcosm of what's going on. Jail, what we're seeing in jail is simply what we're seeing in the streets, because what are you doing? You're arresting them and sending them where? So what, you think their behavior is they're going to stop stabbing because now they're in jail?
But how does your members deal with these kinds of vicious attacks? I mean, it's like kind of shocking.
Well, look, most of the slashing and stabbing that's done inside jails are inmates on inmates. Right. We have those occasions where it's an officer. We deal with it the way we deal with everything else. We come in, we put our uniform on, and we go in and we try to make lemonade, you know. Right. And listen, I'm not saying it because I'm the president of the union. Correction officers, New York City correction officers, we're the best. I mean, I just don't care what anybody say. What we're given to work with, right, and what we do with it is astounding. Just to jump into, they took these 11 or so people off the street who stabbed the young man in the Bronx. Right. They put him in jail, right? They separate them. They put them in what we call CMC, closely monitored case, but they're in a housing area by themselves, right? The other day, one of them took a cup of urine and threw it on one of the officers.
Now, this is one of the guys from that stabbing of young Junior.
Yes, this is one of the 11.
Okay.
2 days ago, one of the 11 threatened to kill a correction officer, so they moved him. Who's protecting the protectors?
Right.
Because we're the protectors, but we have a mayor whose policy does more to endanger our lives or put us in harm's way than to help protect us. We have a commissioner who, in all honesty, since I've been president of the union and since she's been commissioner of the agency, I have not seen where she's put forth anything that says we're going to improve the safety for correction officers. Everything that these people do is geared towards inmates. You understand what I'm saying? So we say with these 11 or so, lock them down. Put them in punitive seg. I don't care. You want to put a TV in their cell, who cares? But they've already proven that they have a disregard for life. Right. So to throw urine on me or to threaten to take my life is saying that they should not be allowed to roam free around the jail,
but
even if they've been
isolated, though. Correct?
Even if they're isolated, they should be locked in and locked down.
And is that the only way that you can defer them from this kind of activity, where your members could get hurt?
I mean, unless somebody smarter than me can come up with a way, how else do we do it? Because currently, yes, they're segregated or separated from the other inmates, but they're still exposed to correction officers. They're not segregated or separated from us. We still are responsible for patrolling that housing area. We're still responsible. We still have direct supervision. We still do direct supervision. Unlike other jail jurisdictions where correction officers in other jurisdictions, they don't have direct supervision. They don't have direct contact with inmates. We still do. So we need to be protected. As we protect them from themselves and others, we need to be protected. And the mayor and the commissioner, their policies haven't done that.
Well, that's also the Board of Corrections, the advocates. Neither one of them, or politicians,
none of them
have come up with an idea.
None of them. There's a lot of lip service. There's a lot of mouth. There's a lot of lying. There's a lot of hypocrisy. But nobody can show me a plan. The commissioner of the agency can't show me a plan that she's put in place to protect correction officers.
Well, let me ask this. You guys just had a victory, though, and I saw it in the news, that you were able to now have the scanners are now going to become available?
Yes.
And speak to us about that victory.
Well, it's something, again, that we've been fighting for the last 4 or 5 years.
Now, these are what, typical airport scanners?
They're similar to airport scanners with the ionized, where we can, when an inmate is put through this machine, whether they have swallowed a weapon, whether they've taken a weapon and stick it in their rear end, wherever they put it, we can see where it is, and we can prove that he or she actually have a weapon, which is not something that we were able to do before we got, and honestly, we still don't have the scanner. I mean, the governor still has to sign off on it, and that's really where it is right now. Now, I mean, it's an election time for him. There's no reason for him not to sign it because it's one of the most bipartisan bills that I've seen in a long time. The majority assembly voted for it. All except one of the Senate voted for it. So the Democrats, the Republicans, everybody pretty much was on board with supporting it. So we believe that it's going to be signed by the governor. But we need that to further help not only protect ourselves but other inmates, because more than 700 inmates since de Blasio's been mayor have been cut, stabbed, or slashed. You got 5,000 in the streets and 700 in the jails. Microcosm.
So now, also, I want to talk something on a better note. You just implemented something unprecedented in corrections. You now have a community liaison position, and now taking a position to get people to know more about the corrections officers by connecting corrections officers with the community. Talk to us about that.
Well, one of the things that I've always wanted to do, as being a part of the union, there are a lot of unions in this city who have part of their union people who are community organizers, people who are community liaison, people who stay in touch with the community. And one of the reasons why I did that is because that's one of the things, and talking to my board member, and that's one of the things that's always been missing. And I don't want to be in a situation where we get a Black Lives Matter and all of a sudden now the police all over the country have to go do the shenanigans and act like they've been a part of the community. That's not something that we as correction officers have to do. We really don't have to act like we're a part of the community.
In the community, so.
65% of us live in it. 85% of my members are African American Latinos, and we live here. Our children go to school here. We shop here. We're in the malls. We're driving through these communities. So we are a part of the community, but it's just been missing. We have people who are correction officers who run programs in the community, and people don't know they're correction officers. We have people who run barbershops and have beauty parlors and do all type of athletic stuff with the kids with money out of their own pocket.
Right.
So by creating a community liaison officer, it actually puts us right out there so people can know exactly that, hey, we're a part of the community, and it's just important for that, for people to understand that.
Now, and before we close out, this will probably be my last question for you. You're the head of this union.
Yes.
You have a different style than your predecessor.
Yes.
What is it that you need for not only your corrections officers to know about what it is that your leadership should entail, and what the community should see and expect from you as well?
Listen, I am a firm believer that real progress is usually not something that happens overnight.
Because somebody might assume that you're not as strong, or you're not. Is it more strategic?
Well, I don't see. The thing is, I don't allow myself to get involved in that because it's almost like the Jordan is better than LeBron James. Who wants to get into that? Oh, Muhammad Ali was a better fighter than Mike. Really? They both came different times, different styles, different ways of doing things. Me, I want real progress. I don't want, even as a young person coming up, I always said, and I used to get in trouble, because I think that if you have the same problem today, next week, next year, I think something's wrong with you. I think that, they say the definition of insanity. Well, I don't want to be the type of union leader who sitting here discussing an issue, and then next year I'm sitting here and I'm discussing the same issue. I am the person, we're going to solve the problem. And no matter how long it takes or how difficult it is, let's solve it. For those day-to-day things that you have no control over, you do what you have to do. But as a union, as a person, as a president, and looking at my union, I want my guys, more than anything, to continue to come to work.
Guys and gals.
And, well, I'm sorry, I'm including, but I have to, I want my members.
Be politically correct.
Yeah, I want my members to literally go home the way they came.
Right.
I want my members to be just as happy to come to work as they are in doing anything else in their life. Listen, correction has definitely put a lot of us in the middle class. You understand? We are able to pay for our kids' education. We are able to buy homes and things of that nature because of this job and because of being a union member. The majority of my members do exactly what it is they're supposed to do every day. They come in, put on their uniform, handle their business, and go home. And you know, it's important for me that they know that this union is fighting and fighting for them. And I was in the jail 4 o'clock this morning, and basically it feels good to hear my members saying to me, hey, you're doing a good job. Hey, keep fighting. Hey, we support you, because that's what I was hearing. And even when I address roll call, that's what I'm hearing. Don't get me wrong, every unit have disgruntled or miserable people. I do everything I can now to stay away from them, because nothing good is going to come out of a miserable person or disgruntled people. Right. They are who they are. I want to represent the officers who are proud to be a correction officer. I'm proud to be a correction officer, which is why at the graduation I gave my speech in uniform. And in uniform, and it's been 40 years since a Union Cobra president put on a uniform. But I wanted to remind my members, I'm you. You're me and I'm you. I want to remind them that I am a correction officer just like you. So at the end of the day, I think we are doing a good job. Do I think we could do better? I always think we could do better, which is my problem. You know, I'm never satisfied, and it's a problem, and I'm working on it. You know, I'm working on it. But you never let me talk about the Bronx. But
you know what? Before we close out, go ahead.
What I was saying about the Bronx is, I haven't heard anyone say, the mayor or the governor, say that the jail that they were talking about building in Mott Haven,
right,
that they wasn't going to, that it was a dead deal. I haven't heard anybody say that.
It could still be on the table.
And I don't know what it is with the Bronx. We have the barge in the Bronx on Hunts Point. Now, if they open Horizon, that's going to be a third jail in the Bronx, because if we as correction officers have to man Horizon, it's a jail.
It's a jail.
It's not a detention center for juveniles. It's a jail. And on top of that, the Bronx covers Rikers Island. So, look, we're out here and we're trying to represent our people, correction officers, because I have a large number of officers, active and retired, who live in the Bronx. I have a large number of officers who live in Staten Island, active and retired. All over Brooklyn, forget it, and Queens, forget it. You already know Queens. So we have to do everything that we can to make sure that people understand exactly what's going on. And I mean, Tony, thank you.
Thank you. Elias Hussain-Bedian. Stay tuned, I'm gonna come back with my rant. That was a good conversation. We'll be right back. So there you have it. You may be asking yourself, why is Elias Hussain-Bedian on this show again? And how does what he is saying impact me? We here at the Morning Stretch are not conspiracy theorists. However, the Close Rikers Island movement, the Raise the Age legislation, and the Supreme Court's recent Janus decision from 10 days ago will all impact the middle class and the poor, who are each trying to get away from poverty. The Close Rikers Island movement is about clearing Rikers out so they can get their hands on that property to either extend the airport, build high-rises, or anything to turn that pristine land into money for their pockets. Now, in order to do that, they can't tell you we need to build high-rises, and you're going to fund it with your $20 billion in tax dollars. So what do? They sell the public on this culture of violence at Rikers Island. Now, this isn't to knock people with good intentions, who really and truly believe adolescents should not be treated and sentenced like adults for nonviolent crimes, which we at the Morning Stretch also agree. But these wealthy people seize on this legislation as an opportunity to empty out Rikers jails. Now, you heard from Elias, the president, that over 40% of these 16 and 17-year-olds on Rikers are there for murder, attempted murder, gun possession, or some other violent felony. So how does Janus tie into this? Think about it. The unions and labor as a movement have been the only checks and balances against the wealthy's power. Unions go get out the vote. Unions go educate people on the issues. Unions lift people out of poverty and keep the middle class alive. So without unions, who keeps you from being arbitrarily fired? who enables you to take your sick kid to the doctor, who allows you to make money to afford a home, keep you from living in dilapidated and rundown conditions they force thousands of people who live in NYCHA to do every day and are forced to live. Unions. Don't be fooled. These issues, the closing of Rikers Island, the Raise the Age legislation, and the Supreme Court Janus decision are not connected. They are. It's about you, your family, your community, your issues, and your voice. So don't opt out. Opt in. Opt into activism. Opt into hope. Opt into having your voice heard. Opt into opportunity for you and your family so you have a choice. Opt in to unions.